Welcome to the first weekly Kaizen podcast. In this first episode, I'd like to share with you where all of this came from and what I'm trying to do, why I think it's useful, and where I'm hoping to take it. So, the first thing, where did this all come from? Well, just over 10 years ago, I decided to write a book. That book is now on Leanpub and on Amazon. It's called Ishi, the Discipline of Determined Intent. And in it, I talk about my experience as an Ironman triathlete and the lessons I've learned both through success, but more importantly through failure, of which there were many, and also when I've had business startups, how I've coached other people, and generally how I live my life. And through it using Japanese philosophy, things like Kaizen and, Ishi itself, the determined intent, and what I've learned from leadership and how this can be applied to our lives, our careers, and how we perform in anything we want to be excellent at. About a year ago, I finally committed to focus on the book and nothing else. And the first move when I made that firm commitment was to start posting every morning on LinkedIn a daily Kaizen. Now, the daily Kaizen was something that I'd been thinking about for a few years as well. The brand of my company is Kaizen Coaching New Zealand, and I call myself a Kaizen coach. When I was at Visa, leading the Agile practice, I renamed the Scrum Masters and Agile coaches all to be Kaizen coaches because I think continual and continuous improvement is the way that we can achieve excellence. So I was thinking about writing about these daily Kaizens, very much inspired by Ryan Holiday's Daily Stoic and by David Marquet's leadership nudges. And I've been working with David for well over 5 years now. But the Kaizen of the day is slightly different because I wanted a bias to action, something that you can do differently today, a small action that if it compounds over time makes a real difference. So it's not philosophical, it's an action, it's bias to action. So July 2025, I started daily posting on LinkedIn, started with intent-based leadership, started with health, and the things that I know make sense in terms of continuous improvement and deliberate practice, like morning routines, exercise, what you eat, and so on. And I saw that I could probably create a book very similar to Ryan Holiday's called Kaizen of the Day. That would be 365 Kaizens in a year, like Ryan Holiday's 366 for his Daily Stoic. But then as my main book, Ishi, the Discipline of Determined Intent, emerged out towards the end of last year with its 4 phases in the Ishi Spiral, I curated the top 100 Kaizens in each of those 4 phases. So the 4 phases are decide, forge, persist, and reflect, or the Japanese is Ishi, Shugyo, Gaman, and Hansei. And within each of these, I've got 25 Kaizens. So these are 25 things that you can actually do. So you read the book, which is semi-autobiographical, and also applying the philosophy and principles with some actions you can take, some tools in there. But the Kaizen of the day is the thing that you can actually take and do tomorrow. So how I've organized this Kaizen of the Day book, which is now available on Leanpub as well, and will be in print within a few months, it's in editing at the moment, is so you've got 4 phases, and each phase has 25 Kaizens. Each 25 is broken into 5 themes, and each theme has 5 days. So in any particular week, you'd have 5 Kaizens of the day, Monday to Friday, and over 5 weeks, you would have 5 themes, which make 1 phase of the Ishi Spiral, and therefore it's over 20 weeks, we have 100 Kaizens. So this is the second week in August, and it happens to be exactly 20 weeks until Christmas. So I started again. So if you go on my Instagram page, I'm halfway through now. So I've done the 2 phases again of Ishi and Shugyo, and I've just started Gaman. And I'm starting again on LinkedIn. And every day I'm going to post a Kaizen, and every week I'm going to talk about the theme, and then every month talk about the phase. And at the end of the year, you will have everything in the book. So you don't actually need to read the book or buy the book. And the reason I'm doing this is because it should be a companion to the main book, which is Ishi, the Discipline of Determined Intent. So here's an example of a few of the phases that we're going to be covering. So in Ishi, we've got name the decision. So you have to be assertive. What is this decision you're making? What's your North Star? What's your why? Why are you doing this? Then we need to own the decision. It's not a borrowed commitment. It's not a second order volition. It's not habit. How do you make it certain that you are committed to this decision? Then we need to govern the decision. How do we set the abort, hold, and release, adjust, hold, and abort AHA protocol? And then it talks about the internal commitments of the architecture of the commitments, and then the first move dominance. So that's the first phase. And the 5 themes in the phase are name the decision, own the decision, govern the commitment architecture, and first move dominance. Then that's after 5 weeks. The next 5 weeks will be Shugyo, forge. Enter the dojo. Enter the space where you perform deliberate practice. Attention and stillness. The beginner's mind, the empty mind. Constrained repetition, learning through constraints. Feedback and correction. And the world as a dojo. Treat everything that you do as a dojo as deliberate practice. That's the next 5 weeks. The third phase, Gaman, or persistence, we're going to look at enduring the elements when the conditions stop cooperating, when we endure repetition after the storm, the monotony, the boredom. How do we overcome that? Hold the line against drift and distraction and normalized dysfunction. Because if you don't pay attention, if you lose the awareness, we can often drift. Rise after the fall. So fall down 7 times, get up 8. How do we recover from setbacks? And finally, sustaining this over the long arc, past any bounded horizon. So that's the third 5 weeks, which is Gaman or persist. So the 5 themes are endure the elements, endure repetition, hold the line against drift, rise after the fall, and sustain the long arc. And finally, Hansei, which is the reflection phase. So we need to audit the decision. Ask ourselves, how valid was the decision, irrespective of the outcome? We need to begin upstream, not as a collapse. We audit the practice. What did we learn? Examine what was the skills that were accumulated. We audit the persistence. What held and what did we have to abort? And then we tighten the intent for the next cycle. We reinform the next Ishi because the Ishi spiral is cyclical. So the 5 themes on Hansei are audit the decision, audit the practice, audit persistence, the outcome versus the story, and tighten intent for the next cycle. So that will take us until Christmas. You can either subscribe to the newsletter on LinkedIn or just watch my feed every day. You'll see me post the Kaizen of the day, and every week I will talk about the theme. And these are excerpts from the book. I'll also record shorts for YouTube, just the Kaizen itself every day with a flashcard of what the Kaizen is. And I'm hoping this inspires you to look at the compound of marginal gains, those small actions that we can pick up every day, and over time see an improvement in excellence in whatever our ambitions are. So, one more thing. There are 100 Kaizens, that's 4 phases, that's 20 different themes, but don't feel that you have to sequence from 1 all the way through to number 100, because you may be in a process in a theme right now of deliberate practice, or you may need to be making a decision, or you may be in a phase of reflection. So you can pick and choose where to start and where to use these. These are arranged sequentially because then it makes it coherent to create a book, but you could dip into any part of this book at any time. You don't have to read it start to finish. So finally, this is a pitch. Check out my book on LinkedIn, on LeanPub, and please subscribe on my Substack, where I'm willing to give all of my thinking out and share with you these ideas. So thank you for listening all the way to the end. I'll see you at the next Kaizen.